Sanbanani, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Kamila Manovondo Wagasmelani. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate it. Good to you guys really take iskhathi just to watch this. I really appreciate it. And today's topic, we're going to be doing journal entries and general ledgers. So I'll be basically doing a breakdown. I feel like it's still a continuation of the first video that I did, and if you haven't watched it, I will link somehow I'll link that video for the basics, and because I feel like that video is really important. It just lays down a foundation of counting. So let's just begin. Okay, first we will do a recap of the intro video, maybe if you don't have time to go over it. But on this slide I added a bit of an acronym. I added an acronym that will help us remember the accounting equation kalula, like I promise you. Like I feel like this table that I did right now should just make things easy for you whenever you feel like awazi or you have forgotten. Awazi is not let's say you have forgotten. It's good to know this going forward. Ukuthi iyenze ibe your general knowledge. Okay, so let's begin with today's lesson. We'll go to what are journal entries and what is a general ledger. A journal entry basically records your business transaction. It could be either you're buying or you're selling. You have to keep a record of that because you don't just end Sanjina and then you don't keep track of it. And one of the reasons why we keep track of each and every business transaction is so you can be able to submit documents to SARS whenever you're calculating your income tax. It will make things easier for you. Just not that you're doing SARS a favor or whatever, you're helping yourself in a way. So a general ledger is basically for bookkeeping, and then it records all your accounts. It could be property, plant, and equipment, or it will have its own general ledger account instead of just shoving in everything in one place. It helps you organize wonke ama-transaction ukuthi uwagroupe kahle instead of uwafaka wonke endaweni eyi-one. And okay, I thought it would be easier to explain my journals and the general ledger using an example, because it will just make much more sense instead of just me just talking. There isn't really much to say about general ledger and general journals, but it is also an important part of a foundation of e-accounting. So, okay, I have given you like a format. Okay, this is an example of a format, and then we go through an example. So, okay, I think for the longest time, our shop will be ispaza until mhlambe I don't know what happens, because at some points at home, we had ispaza, so that's why I love it so much. So I'll be using it a lot. So the format, okay, what this really means. Okay, I just randomly put rent expense and like just to show you. We'll see how you record your cash purchase, how you record your cash purchases on your journal entry and how it looks like. We'll see this is where we would see where does the account increases from, whether it increases on the debit side or the credit side. That's why I showed you a recap of that qala, so you can just jog your memory. Ukuthi, remember that I said expenses increases on your debit side, so you already know whenever you doing your journals, ukuthi, just ask yourself, is it an expense, is it an asset, is it equity, is it yabo, is it a liability? It will just make things easier for you whenever you have to do journals. And yeah, so okay, I made this example. So okay, I didn't on purpose using a file whether a bank is an asset or yabo, so you can know a bank. If let's say you pay rent, you're taking out money, you losing money, imali yaphuma kuwena, so yeah, decrease the bank balance yakho. So obviously to reflect, you could say your bank balance did decrease, you credit your balance because it is an asset, so your asset decreases on credit side. So yeah, and general ledger, it is more detailed. We would see what exactly happened on the entire bank account, either for that year or for that month. For now, just to make things easier, let's just use a month. We would see it will have all your entire transaction, like for a bank account, your bank balance, or for maybe like, let's say your rent expense, let's say maybe you pay rent every day is not good, maybe like let's say once a week or just once a month, so we will have that one transaction. If you paid amarenta 4 kuleyo nyanga, it will reflect rent A4 under your rent expense. So yeah, okay, I put it this way so you can understand, or we'll see debit and credit, but it is actually a T account. That's why I put it here on top so you can see the proper format of it. This was just for you to understand debit or credit much more easier. Okay, let's get into our example. So I'll tell you on ukuthi sobesenza espaza. So here's our example. Ukuthi, just to make sure that you understand, ngenze yabalula, like uze nawe uzoyicabanga on izinto ozenza every day. Ukuthi, like, I feel like izinto makes sense kakhulu once yabo usuyicabanga live, so you don't try to think ukuthi, oh my gosh, this is so deep, and then you end up confusing yourself. Kanti if you realize ukuthi, like, yeah, I actually do this every day, like, it will even be much more easier for you if ubhala, even like it will help you remember a lot of stuff. So ngicabange into that you buy every day, mhlambe every time bekuthuma esitolo bakuthuma isinkwa, and then mhlambe-ke uyi-reward nawe mase bekuthuma isinkwa uyithengele iyobo. Yeah, chips, can eat like in chips, I just use the yobo nje for control, but isinkwa sithenga every day, and ama-chips uzohamba esitolo uyowathenga. So in that business transaction, for you, wena, you might think, oh, I'm just buying bread, or yabo, you're saying my chips. But think of it now, it's okay, what does it mean for the shop owner? Uthi, you bought isinkwa and ama chips. So okay, that's why I have this. Okay, for you, it had okay. I have the numbers here, like number and it might not cost the malena, but it's just for example purposes, for explaining. So it's by the shop owner, umnini stolo, let's say, yena, obviously he's not just gonna buy one bread and then sell it to you. Yena mhlambe uthenge izinto eziningi so he can be able to sell to more customers. So yena he bought 10 breads, and then nanzi emakosta khona, and then obviously there are traveling costs for usually, if you have seen ama-spaza shop amaningi, those ama-baker amaningi, they deliver izinkwa zabo to ama-spaza shop. So yeah, obviously you need to pay for that. They don't deliver for free. And then shop owners, like the shop owner uthenga ama-chips ayi-20, and then they cost, obviously that's why when I'm costa kancane, obviously when you sell stuff, you sell it for, like, what would be the point? You sell it for imali eningi than you bought it for. You need to make profits, because what would be the point of spending much more money buying inventory yako and then sell it for less? How is it going to benefit you? Then how are you going to survive in the long run? It's more about continuity and ensuring that you get profits. So that's why you need to sell it for more than okay. So here's our journal entries. Okay, reason why I use red where we wouldn't be putting anything on it. If I get red card, we keep and like, don't even try or think of putting an amount there. Reason being, ukuthi you don't want ukuthi, like, for example, your inventory. Afuna ufike your inventory on a debit side, like you bought your inventory and then you put on your debit side, and then the next thing you like inventory ufike good debits and then you put ufike good credits. You never ever put one transaction in the news two. Like, like, what I mean by that, I mean, let's say you buy your inventory, like, for example, for this bread, he bought 10 bread, so that's why it's 100 rand. Like, you can never, under the same line, le ya 100 rand, ufike ufake ukuthi inventory increases on the debit side, ufike ufake lapho, ufike ufake 100 rand wakho ngala, uphinde futhi ucredit at the same time. That would be wrong. You never ever do that. Never. Like, I cannot emphasize on never, because you just be, when uzobizenzela disadvantage if ungenza leyo nto. So never ever do it. Like, and always make sure for your journal entry ukuthi it balances. You can never have a journal entry 100 rand. Let's say you debit 100 rand and then you credit 20 rand for some reason, and then you can never. Your debit side needs to be equal to your credit side always. It has to be like that. So just make sure you don't put 100 rand ngala, 100 rand ngala. I don't want to include that slide because some of you might even get confused and think yeah, but never. Okay, before we get into the journals of this example that I've just shown, I think it's good for us to have an idea what I mean. So for now, I'll use pens. Like, let's say, it will explain why you have to eliminate your inventory and then move it to cost of sales. Just to explain that concept, I'll use 4 pens right in front of me. So let's say, as the shop owner, you bought 4 pens and then you sell 1 pen. So now you only left with 3 pens. So it's good for you to reflect, okay, I had 4 pens, manje sengisalelwa amapen awu-4. So how do you do that? We'll continue with our inventory example. How do you record you had amapen ayi-4 but now ususalelwa ayi-3? So how you record that on your journals is, okay, remember that we bought our inventory for 100 randy and we have the 20 rand for our chips, and then transport expense, and then your bank will be 150 because you spent 150. Okay, so I don't have to go over the whole debit and credit. Just jog your memory why something is debited, why is credited, because you increase and then it decreases on the other side and things like that. So it's very important to know that. Okay, you see, okay, let's just jump into the cost of sales journals. Okay, remember that you only bought ipaketheli 1 lama chips and it cost 250. So on your revenue, On your revenue, you will reflect that. And then your cost of sales, you will record ukuthi you sold that one bread and that one chips, that one packet of chips. And in order, because explainile ngamapeni ukuthi why you do it that way, is to reflect ukuthi that's why you're decreasing your inventory, to reflect ukuthi, oh no, I no longer have that one pocket of chips or that one loaf of bread because you have sold it. So yeah, that all the time, whenever you have revenue and you're selling something, you had inventory for it, that's why whenever you record your revenue journal, your cost of sales journal if there was inventory for that. Okay, I'll explain later when we're doing revenue for services rendered, because not every item that is revenue has inventory. So I will explain that when we get to do revenue or the income statement in detail. So at the moment, it's important to know, when you had inventory for item daisayo, you will always have to record your revenue and then eliminate you no longer have it. So it's important to reflect that on your books as well. So expenses, the transport expense, yabona ukuthi iwona didn't have a journal to eliminate it or when it was sold or whatever. Okay, this transport expense is not directly attributable to our revenue or inventory item. So, reason why we wouldn't, eliminate expense vele, and it's not a capital balance. So there's no need to eliminate. You only eliminate your inventory and then transferring it to your cost of sales. So here's the general ledger on how it looks like. On our bank, I randomly started our bank with an opening balance of 1.5, because most of the time you will have a closing balance unless you're starting on a clean slate. We call 0 randi, but let's just assume he has 1.5 we bank account yake. And when you sell, when he bought inventory, I'll put a plus no minus just so you can know where it increases, and then because bank is an asset, no see where it decreases. When you bought your inventory, it will decrease your bank balance because you spending money. If you had 100 rand and then you decide to buy chips mhlampe ngo-20 randi, you will be left with 80 rand. So that's why when the shop owner is buying inventory, his bank balance decreases. So, and then we have all the other transactions. It's important to note, the debit side and the credit side needs to be equal. And so what you do, uzofike ubale the 1.5, whichever side is bigger, there will be your balance here at the bottom. And then you will have your balancing figure as your closing balance here. And remember that I told you that your debits and your credit needs to be equal. So your closing balance would be your opening balance for the next month or for the following year. So let's say you're having another transaction for maybe for April, for so the 13675 will be your opening balance for that month or year. Revenue doesn't have an opening balance because it is not a balance sheet account. It is a transaction account. So it doesn't have or opening balance. Revenue does not have an opening balance. Revenue does not have an opening balance. Yeah. Any other income statement account ayibi nayo opening balance. It doesn't have income statement. Transactions don't have opening balances. Yeah. So now that we got that, so yeah, revenue, okay. You sold for 1750. That includes your bread and your amachipsaki, your boyako. So revenue increases on your credit side. So when you sold, your revenue increased. So you record that. So and then yeah, okay. I think lokokunye is a bit self-explanatory. Okay, we've already spoken about inventory and cost of sales. No, we'll see why we're doing it. Okay, I highlighted. Okay, for now, I just assumed that inventory didn't have anything. The only stuff that he has is pen. But if inventory is a balance sheet item, so it will have an opening balance. But your cost of sales will not have an opening balance because it's on your income statement. So yeah, and okay, I think general ledger is much more like it lays out in much more detail in that particular account. So yeah, I think it's a bit repetitive because we've already done it on your journals. If there's anything you didn't understand and you feel like I need to go through it, and yeah, I'll be very much more willing to help. Just drop it in the comment section and I will respond. Okay, I'm most likely to respond on the weekends, Pela. And another thing, just maybe comment in the comment section. I will see, should I give out my email address? If there's something you want to go over, for us in much more detail, yabo. Noguti, yeah. Or if you have maybe any suggestion or how we can improve, I'm much more willing to if you have any suggestion, maybe you should do it like this. Yeah, like your opinion matters. So just drop it in the comment section, and thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely day. Have a good time.